Good evening, and thank you for tuning in this evening for the City of Stafford Candidates Forum for Stafford MSD School Board, Stafford City Council, and Mayor for the City of Stafford. My name is Rehan Ali Mohammed, partner with the law firm of Wong Fleming, and immediate past chair for the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your moderator for this evening. This event is being broadcasted live through Stafford METV and Facebook Live through both the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce's and the City of Stafford's Facebook page. If you have any questions for our candidates, please submit them in the comments section of either Facebook page, and we will do our best to get to as many questions as time allows. Before we begin with our forum, I would like to take a moment to honor the memory of Mayor Leonard Scarcella. Mayor Scarcella was first elected as mayor of the City of Stafford in 1969. He was the longest continuous serving mayor in the U.S., and this will be the first Stafford Candidates Forum in 50 years without him. At this time, I'd like to introduce our press panel that will be asking the candidates questions. First, we have Seshadri Kumar with the Fort Bend Independent, Stefan Modrich with the Fort Bend Star, and Christy Nix with the Houston Chronicle, who is going to be here in a few minutes. Thank you for being here. This will be a time response forum. Paige Talbot will be the timekeeper. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. Candidates will receive a reminder for 30 seconds remaining with the yellow card, 10 seconds remaining with the red card, and then stop. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Does everybody understand? All right. Let's begin with the Stafford MSD School Board. Our candidates for Stafford MSD School Board are Jacqueline Jean Baptiste, Christopher Caldwell, and Clint Mendonça. Candidates, you have 2 minutes for your opening statements per the rules in the order of your name on the ballot. Jacqueline Jean Baptiste, please give us your opening statement.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Jean Baptiste. I'm a current member of the SMSD School Board. I've been serving as a trustee for the last 3 years and hope that you will continue to support me in my re-election campaign to continue to serve this district. My family and I have been residents of Stafford for the last 24 years. I have 3 grown children. We are very active in the community, volunteering within the district when our kids were students, on the city's ad hoc committee, and members of both the SYBA and the Stafford Cobras. We love our community and enjoy giving back to help develop and mentor the kids in the community. Although we have accomplished a lot over the last couple of years, there's still more work to be done on our board. This board has passed the largest bond in the school history. The new middle school that was under construction and open today, and our STEM Academy, which will open next fall. So there's many exciting things that are happening and still a lot of work to be done. I hope that you will re-elect me so that I can continue to do this work and make Stafford the best little school district in Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Caldwell, please give us your opening statement.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Christopher Caldwell. I am a 26-year resident of Stafford. This will be my 3rd term as a member of the school board. I'm excited about an opportunity to continue to serve Stafford. A few things I want you to know about me and why I want to be on the school board and continue on in this process. Number one, the core principles that I support is one team. That means the school board and the city, community, citizens, students, staff, and faculty. We are all one team and we're trying to reach one goal. There are foundational values that I support as a board member. One is being integrity, the next being transparency, and the third being accountable. There are 4 pillars that support my beliefs to make this school district great. That we create a culture, that we create a climate, that we create an environment, and that we create expectations for our students, faculty, and staff. Once those 4 pillars are created, then we could build student student-centered programs, and every decision that we make can be student-focused. At the end result of all of the culmination of all of these events, we will have student achievement and student success. We are in great shape here at the school. We are financially responsible. Our school district is attaining great grades. We are a wisp away from having an A school district, so we're doing very good. We have one of the longest serving superintendents, so we have continuity in leadership. And we're also doing a really good job with security. So I am number 2 on your ballot, and I ask that you all would vote for me and support me. Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Mendonça, please give us your statement.
Good evening. I'd like to open by thanking the Chamber as well as Stafford METV for being here and making this candidate forum possible. My name is Clint Mendonça. I am running for school board trustee, and the reason I'm running for trustee is because our schools in our district are not doing anywhere near as good as they need to be. I plan on doing what I can to help change that, and I'd like to focus on 3 key areas. The first thing that I'd like to focus on is school safety. Back in February, the majority of the focus when it came to school safety was on fights, bullying, mental health. Then the pandemic hit. Now we're concerned about making sure that there's PPE for the students and employees on campus, as well as everything we need for remote learning to work. That's devices and Wi-Fi and tech support for those families that need it, those economically disadvantaged families, so that they can choose to make that decision to do remote learning if they want to. The second thing I'd like to focus on is fiscal responsibility. We did just pass a massive bond. The thing is, our district is landlocked. Our whole city is about 7 square miles. We cannot annex any other territory. The money that's coming in is what's coming in, and we need to make sure that we're prudently spending every dollar. The third thing I'd like to focus on is academic rigor. If you take a look at our school ratings from TEA, they are not good. We need to step that up. We need to improve the quality of our schools. We need to improve the college readiness of our students when they're graduating. And we need to make sure that there's enough engagement from the whole community to make sure that the school district succeeds. For those of you who don't know me, I look forward to earning your vote tonight.
Thank you. At this time, we will have our press panel begin with questions for our candidates. Seshadri Kumar, you may ask your question.
Yes. For the incumbents, right now your challenger has listed 3 points about safety, fiscal responsibility, and academic performance. Explain why you should be re-elected, and if re-elect, and would you even agree with the criticism made by your challenger? And then to Mr. Mendonça, how you are going to accomplish the critical aspects that you mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Jacqueline John Baptiste, please go first.
So I'll start with the first. It says school safety. As far as school safety, I feel that we are doing a good job with our school safety. As a school board, we get reports on the issues that take place in the school, and we don't have major issues. We do have, and we've just are paying for now, a school security, so that we have security in our buildings for our children. And if there's any issues, there's always principals and teachers and everybody around to help these kids, that if there are any bullying, and we have anti-bullying programs, we have policies against bullying, so the structure is there for our students. As far as the second one was, I'm sorry.
Fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility. So I think this is probably the best place that we are. We are very physically sound. We have a great amount of money in our fund balance. We even put back money back into our fund balance every year. We've passed a balanced budget for the last 7 years, and we have a bond oversight committee that watches the spending of our bond to ensure that the money on this bond is being spent.
You're out of time. You're out of time, sorry. Christopher Caldwell, please, next.
Thank you very much. First, let's address the fiscal responsibility. Stafford School District, for the past 6 years that I have been on the board, have attained the highest rating for fiscal responsibility by a group called FIRST. We have the A++ rating. Secondly, let's talk about school safety. Stafford Municipal School District have had several meetings with local, state, and federal agencies to make sure that this school is the safest school. And if you walk around the school, you will see many of the recommendations that the school has taken from those agencies. Next, academic. According to the state of Texas, Stafford Municipal School District is a B school district, with several of our individual campuses being a B. We did have one low grade, which was a D, but if we, according to the superintendent, that is moving up to a B and possibly an A. College and career readiness, the majority of our high school students, high 90%, are college and career ready and are attending college
You're out of
or.
time. You're
I'm
out of
sorry.
time. Sorry. Please watch her. She's warning you, okay?
Yeah,
All right. Clint Mendoza, please, next.
Regarding school safety, I've been in touch with City Council about the need for more security officers, as well as with other members of the school board regarding the need for counselors to proactively identify situations that may need addressing when it comes to that school safety. When it comes to academics, I hear what Dr. Caldwell's saying. The data on the TEA website begs to differ. Our elementary school got a 61 in student achievement, a D. Our middle school got a 78, a C in student achievement. Our high school got an 80, barely by 1 point a B in student achievement. That's not success. In terms of fiscal responsibility, our budget is balanced. That is good. We need to take a closer look at the details, but I can't get into that right now because I'm out of time.
Thank you. All right. Next question from our panel will go to Stefan Modrich.
Touching on the issue of the virtual learning and the digital resources, for the three of you, I guess I would like to know what is the strategy. I believe when I spoke with Dr. Bostic recently, he mentioned that I think 524 students are still lacking a digital device. So if you could just kind of outline what you'd like to do to kind of bridge that gap.
Christopher Caldwell, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. Last year, the school district, the board approved $2 million to buy devices for schools. The reason why the devices are not in is because of production. It's no fault of the school district. We do have purchased enough for every school student in the school district. So the holdup is not the school district, it is actually the production of that device.
Okay. All right. Mr. Mendoza.
Pertaining to that, Dr. Caldwell already touched on it. The district has already made the investment. We can't change that now. Had I been on the board prior, I wouldn't have gone with the vendor we chose. If you go with Apple, you've got to get it from Apple. If you go through an Android or Microsoft system, you've got multiple vendors making those same devices. If one of them cannot fill your order, you can go and start shopping to other places and get devices from there. You can mix and match and run the same software. Unfortunately, larger school districts did place bigger orders and we got pushed to the back, and there's nothing we can do about that. But had we made a more prudent decision with where we were getting our devices from, I believe that we could have dealt with the backlog by turning around and shopping elsewhere and getting as many devices as possible for our students. The other thing I'd like to point out is we've also had concerns about the tech support. Even the ones who do have devices are encountering problems. We need to make sure that we're getting more support, more IT support for our students.
Thank you. Your response, Jacqueline John?
As Mr. Caldwell said, and to answer him, we'd already had devices on campus. Our middle school had already, all of our middle school was one-to-one, and we matched the devices that we currently had for the rest of the school so that we weren't replacing all the devices in the middle school. So we stuck with Apple as a vendor. Dr. Bostic stuck with Apple as a vendor. As far as technical issues, anyone will know that if you followed any of the school districts, I mean, having this many kids try to log in and do things, every district is having them. We are solving them as fast as we can. Our tech support team is working really hard to make sure every child is able to log in and get the work done that's needed. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. And now we go to our third panelist for your question.
Can you hear me? Okay, what future measures would you propose or support to address retaining and attracting highly qualified teachers?
Clint Mendoza, we'll start with you.
In terms of retaining highly qualified teachers, it's not just about the pay. It's not just about the benefits. They have to feel valued, supported, empowered to do the things that they need to do. I think that Stafford already pays our staff very well. I think we could improve our benefits package. We have to also keep in mind that we are around a lot of large school districts that can offer a lot more than we can as Texas's little school district. So we need to make sure that we are a place, we're a destination as a city, and a destination with great campuses and great students where the teachers and faculty, staff, administration all feel that they have everything they need to succeed, so that they're happy, they want to stay, and they're recruiting their peers from other institutions to come over.
Jacqueline, your response?
I look at it also as giving them an environment where they want to be here, where they know that they can flourish and the children that they teach will flourish also. I also believe in incentive pay, not just a salary, but incentive. So if a teacher and their class are doing well, scoring well, and the kids are growing in their academics, then teachers should be incentivized. I also believe in better benefits. I understand what Clint is saying, and as a school board, we are looking at better benefits for our staff. And again, transparency with our staff and an openness to where our teachers and our principals feel comfortable in going to the administration and speaking with the administration on any issues that they have. So having an open environment, an environment that's willing to allow them to be able to do the best that they can in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher?
Thank you. This goes back to the 4 pillars which I stated earlier in my opening statement. When you create a culture, a climate, environment, and expectations, then you create an arena of excellence and one where people will thrive. We give our instructors the ability to have academic freedom to teach our students. We give them the tools necessary, the resources necessary in order to make them thrive. Also, we took on a huge task on trying to improve the benefits for our school, but we encountered some problems with the state. So we attempted to do it, and the state actually said no. As a matter of fact, I went to Austin and argued in front of state representatives and state senate on behalf of our school district, and we were shut down. So we have attempted to do it, and we will continue to do it. And I am also a proponent of performance pay and incentive pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will ask you a question from our audience. What, in your opinion, are the top 3 priorities to consider in recruiting and retaining quality teachers? And Jacqueline, we'll start with you.
So as far as recruiting quality teachers, is going out and showing them what Stafford has to offer. The small class sizes, the transparency, the accountability, not having a huge district to go through a lot of red tape, offering incentive pay, performance pay, and then just doing a good job at recruiting, going out, whether it's new teachers, and having a balance between new teachers and finding teachers that have been in the teaching industry for a couple of years, like greater than 5 years, to have a good balance so that teachers can mentor teachers, which means new teachers stay around, because a lot of your turnover comes with new teachers who get kind of overwhelmed and decide to leave teaching. So it's having a good balance when recruiting.
Thank you. Christopher?
Thank you. Research supports the fact that people do not stay on jobs because of pay. We have a very competitive pay here at Stafford Municipal School District. I think the way we can recruit and entice teachers to come is by creating an environment in which they can be successful, where they can feel that they have been a part of the learning process, of the success and achievement of those students, by having the proper support from the administrators and the superintendent and the board to empower them to do what they have been trained to do, and that's teach and prepare our students for the future. To keep them here, again, it goes with us supporting those instructors, trying to create community involvement, parental involvement, high response rates from our administrative staff and board members, and to put our money where our mouth is and give them the resources that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Clint, your response?
I feel like I already touched on this a bit when I was talking about the pay and the benefits. Speaking of the benefits, I recall Mayor Scarcella himself in this very venue back in January talking about what we needed to do to possibly implement better benefits for our employees at the school district. I also touched on empowerment. Kind of like my opponents have noted, a part of that does involve making sure that they feel that they can be part of the education process. Teachers are a part of the education process one way or another. We need to make sure that they're the best teachers doing the best work. They need to feel that they are equipped with what they need to succeed and that their hard work is acknowledged and recognized. It's soul-crushing to be in an industry, sadly I've done it before, where you're not appreciated and you're busting your behind every day. We need to make sure that when we have good teachers, we recognize and reward them, maybe with incentive-based pay, maybe not.
Thank you. Next question from the audience. What do you envision to be the driving academic goals of the new STEM Magnet Academy? And Christopher, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So the new driving goals of the new STEM Academy that we are creating, number one, we are instituting rigor into that course. Again, it is science, heavily science and math and technology based with engineering, which STEM is. We are making sure that even with the instructional staff that we are carefully going through, that they have the proper experience. For that, we're not looking for any first-time teachers. We're looking for experienced teachers. We have a very rigorous testing program to even get into that program, which is the ISIS test, which they use at top level private schools here in Houston and around the country. So we are trying to make sure that we are meeting the industry standards. We are collaborating with universities, creating partnerships with universities like Rice, MIT, Harvard, to make sure that we are getting our students the material and the concepts that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Clint?
So building on what Dr. Caldwell said, I've actually been talking to a couple of the people on the board about this and talking about how we're going to be phasing in, starting with the 3rd through 8th grade, and then adding in the high school years one at a time until we hit that intended capacity of 300 students. Once we get to that point, it's going to become highly competitive and very rigorous because we're only going to be able to accept that new 3rd grade every year. We're planning on retaining and developing those students throughout their entire career at SMSD. We are looking at getting the best teachers, but we're also looking at making sure that Stafford residents, Stafford students, people who live in our city boundaries get priority for applying for that program. This district exists for the residents of Stafford, and we want to make sure that the Stafford kids get the most benefit out of every dollar we're spending.
Thank you. Jacqueline, your response?
So building on what Dr. Caldwell said, we're looking for the best teachers who coming to Stafford may have some STEM experience or are highly regarded in science, math, or technology. Second, we're building a very rigorous curriculum. We want to make sure that these kids are challenged way above what you get in a normal school. We want to make sure that they learn using real-world experiences through STEM so that they will be better prepared in looking at a career or majors in college using STEM as a foundation.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to our panelists for a question. Seshadri, go ahead.
Yes. I have a question on this limited open enrollment. Do you think it has accomplished its purpose? Do you still believe that that program has to be continued? If you continue it, does it mean it reflects poorly on the district's image, that the local students are not coming to local school district, their own school district, and going elsewhere? That image persists. What do you think about it?
Clint, we'll start with you.
Right. My answer to that in short is no. I don't think we need to continue the LOE program. The thing is, there's been a major concern about enrollment and recapture. The state passed HB 3 last year, which changed the rules. When you look at our statistics, we can lose some enrollment. Not that we want to lose students. We want to retain every student that's currently with us. But we don't need to keep doing limited open enrollment to retain our enrollment numbers as the district. We need to be focusing on making sure that every dollar we have at our district goes towards the benefit of our students. We need to make sure that even if we lose students, we stay within that recapture limit where we don't have to worry about Texas recapturing any funds and Robin Hooding it away to another district. And we can do that. Because if we shrink down class sizes and we focus more on where Mayor Scarcella had quoted an 18-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, if we get closer to that, I think our school district will do better, and that will be success.
Thank you. Jacqueline, your response?
So to answer the question, I'm not sure if we need to go away because it's all based off of finances in the state. And yes, the state did pass House Bill 3. However, as anybody in the school industry knows, is that the state cannot continue in the long haul to support the ideas of House Bill 3. Therefore, if the state can't give you the money, then you're back to where we started from when this was first brought about in Stafford, I don't know, some 10 or so years ago. So at this time, we can shrink down the classes, we can do all of that. However, if we don't have the money at the end to pay our bills 3, 4, 5 years from now, where will Stafford be? Do I support limited open enrollment? I support any kid that has walked through the doors of Stafford. I don't want to get rid of any kids. I don't want to ask any kid to leave. If I'm in the 9th grade and you tell me I have to leave and I can't finish from the high school, how fair is that? However, if we lose kids...
So, thank you. All right, Christopher, your response.
Thank you. To properly answer that question, you have to ask the question, what do you want Stafford Municipal School District to be? According to PINGS, 92% of Stafford students attend Stafford Municipal School District. According to the State of Texas report, the other 8% are at surrounding schools, whether it be charter schools. The question is, the reason why we established the LOEs is because we wanted to outrun recapture, okay? But the bottom line is it's more of a ripple effect in that even if we reduce the number of students and we outrun recapture, it still has budgetary effects, meaning that we can't offer programs. We have to fire our FTEs. So the question is, what do you want your school district to be? Do you want us to be competitive? Do you want us to have the programs to make us competitive? Or do you want not to have them? So if we can answer the question what we want our school district to be, then we can answer the questions about limited open enrollment students.
Thank you. Let's go back to our panelists. Stefan, do you have a question?
Yes. So my question is pertaining to the census non-response rate, and at last check, I believe it was something like 36%. And the reason I'm bringing this statistic up is as it pertains to potential educational funding and additional resources that could be made available to you. And I'm wondering, is that something that can be addressed within the scope of your curriculum to enhance education about the census and just overall increase participation?
Jacqueline, we'll start with you.
I didn't hear the full question.
Do you want to go ahead and repeat it? We won't start.
Sure. So the question is can the census be addressed within the scope of curriculum, and is that something that you believe is within the school's, I guess, mandate to educate the community about how those potential resources are left on the table if people don't respond?
Okay, I heard it. I do think that it could be not a part of the curriculum, but it's part of our marketing program to explain to our community how important the census are as far as showing that how many students or kids under 18 live in our area so that we can get the funds. Because as we all know, if they don't know that we're here, there's no way that they will keep offering the funds for the amount of people that are here. So I do think it should be a part of our marketing program to get families to complete the census. I don't know if it should be a part of our curriculum.
Thank you. Chris, go ahead.
This is the beauty of being a municipal school district because we work hand in hand with the city. The purpose of a municipal school district is to make sure that we don't double tax the citizens for the same services. So in cooperation with the city of Stafford and the municipal school district, it is everyone's responsibility to inform our community about the importance of the census, the importance of the money that it can bring into the community and to the school district. So it is a shared responsibility, not only with the school district and with the school board and with citizens, but it's also a shared responsibility with the city of Stafford. So in short, yes, we should collaborate on how we're going to reach our community of 18,000 people to make sure that all of them are doing the census, filling out the census report.
Thank you. Clint, your response?
I would say unequivocally, yes, it is part of the school district's mission. It may not be our direct responsibility, but it does affect us financially. Like Dr. Caldwell said, we are connected to the city. We do work hand in hand, and we got to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts. That said, our school district has some of the most involved families right there. If your kids are enrolled in the local schools, the parents are paying attention to what the school is sending out. We have an audience. It's not all of Stafford, but it's some of the most engaged citizens, and we can work with them and we can mobilize them. As far as the curriculum, maybe we can't do anything for the 2020 census, but if we include the importance of civic engagement, filling out the census, getting out there and voting, to those students, we can prep them for the future. We can get them ready so that this issue doesn't happen in future years.
Thank you. Go back to our panel. Christy Nix, you have a question?
In your opinion, what is the job of a trustee?
We'll start with Chris.
According to TEA, the job of a trustee, we have two major jobs. Number one, to set policy. Number two, to hire and fire. I know it sounds a little cruel. To hire and fire superintendent. But that is our technical jobs. We are, as trustees, to support our school district, to support our community, to make sure that we have community involvement, to make sure that we are the voices of our community, and that we speak what our community wants for the school, that it mirrors what the community wants. We also have to support our faculty, staff, and administrators at school boards and our decisions on budgeting and funding programs. And we also, with being a municipal school district, again, as a trustee, we ought to work hand in hand with the city in creating the budget and passing the tax rate for the city. So in short, we have two technical jobs given to us by TEA, but it far extends past that as a trustee.
Thank you. Clint, your response?
The benefit of going second is the textbook answer was already given. But on top of that, we are the ones at the top. We're the ones where if there's an issue, the buck stops with us. Whichever of the three of us ends up on the board, we're the ones responsible to the community. We're the ones elected. We're responsible for making sure that if anything's going wrong, it gets fixed. We are the ones engaging constituents. We can get out there. We can do town hall meetings. We can do more special sessions. We can address the needs of the community, identify things that the superintendent can't do while he's managing schools, that principals can't do while they're managing their staff. We're the ones who have that balance where we can get out there into the community, identify the needs of parents, identify the needs of the community, identify what local business leaders want from Stafford graduates, and make sure that we're getting those policies in place and those people in place to meet those needs.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
And as he said, he's already given you the textbook answer, but also to be a steward of the community, so that the community sees that you are representing the school district. We also help with developing the goals of the district. So when we talk about rigorous academics, we have to make sure that we have the resources and the programs in order for our principals and our curriculum directors to put in place rigorous curriculums. So that's our job, but we are stewards of the community, and again, working hand in hand with the city as a municipal school district.
Thank you. Another question from the audience. Stafford MSD is the only municipal school district in Texas. This shows how closely the city and schools are related. What does the city government have to do with the school district, and how do they work together to increase the student achievement? Clint, we'll start with you.
Well, on paper, there shouldn't be too much overlap. We each have our defined responsibilities. But that said, we are all leaders in the community. We're all responsible to our constituents. We all need to work together. As school board trustees, we can only cover so many people. I know I've gone around walking and talking to as many residents as I can. I haven't hit as many as the city council and mayoral candidates have. We do need to work together. We need to make sure that if something we have missed has gotten to someone else, we can still get involved and fix it. We had an issue with the karate program getting canceled, and word got to city council before it got to the school board about the concerns being raised with that, and we had to have the emergency school board meeting to get karate reinstated. That's the kind of thing where maybe we missed that as a school board, but city council got it, brought it to the attention of several school board members, and corrective action could be taken.
Thank you. Jacqueline, your response?
We do actually have two things that we have to do with being a municipal school district, and that's one, passing the budget, and two, passing the tax rate. After the technical things we work hand in hand so that our kids have the resources. We have shared facilities like this civic center or the pool. Those two things belong to the city, but the school district benefits from these facilities. We also work at marketing and trying to make sure that not just 92% of our Stafford residents, but 100% of our residents attend Stafford. We share a newsletter where our information is communicated out besides the other information that's out. We're all leaders in the community, and we try our best to work for each other to show that the city and the school districts are the best in Stafford. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher?
Thank you. Jackie gave you the legal term of what we do, which is to create a budget and pass a tax rate. But as everyone knows, that the heart of the community is the school, and as the school goes, so does the community. So it behooves both the school district and the city to work together to make sure that the Stafford community is a place where people want to live, where people want to stay. If you have a great school, people move into your community because of great schools. So it's imperative that we work together, that we create a great school, and that they create a great community so people can want to live and want to come. So we have to work together. We can't work against each other. And I am very appreciative of City Council for working with us, but we want Stafford to be great. We're bringing in new restaurants, new activities, new amenities, but we have to make sure that the school district is doing its part in making sure that we have the rigor, that we have the student success, and that we have the student achievement that parents are looking for, that we are competitive, not with public schools, but with the private schools, that we have the rigor and the academic success. All right.
Thank you.
I want to see the stop.
All right. All right, another question from the audience. What specific goals would you have for SMSD that are new and innovative towards growing SMSD's enrollment? Jacqueline, we'll start with you.
So, being on the school board for the last 3 years, we've tried a lot of different things. My answer really was prior to pandemic, because I thought one of the things that we haven't done is had a Stafford night, like right before school starts, and to invite the community to see, because I think part of the problem with people not coming to Stafford, the 6% that we don't have, is that they don't know all that we have to offer, whether it's the culinary program, the engineering program, the welding program. We have a lot to offer, and I don't think that we do our best job, even though we have a wonderful marketing person that just started, we don't do our best job at showing everything that we have to offer. Our robotic program is like one or two in the country, and by putting all this out and allowing Stafford residents who have children that don't go to Stafford an invitation to come into or a Zoom meeting, I think that would help us in engaging with those parents and maybe and bringing some of them back to the district.
Thank you. Christopher?
Thank you. The thing that I think that we really need to do here at the school district, and I'm really big on, is creating an infrastructure. When I say create an infrastructure, I want to put things in place that even if I become a grease spot, if Ms. Jackie becomes a grease spot, or if Dr. Bostic becomes a grease spot, that the school will be self-sustaining and self-maintaining and able to continue on in the way of excellence. So I have really taken time with Dr. Bostic, and we've looked at some things. Unfortunately for Stafford, a lot of superintendents have come through and used this as a stepping stone to move somewhere else. So they'll stay here 2 years and move. We are fortunate to have him here for 6 years. So the continuity and consistency is helping us to create a house that is built on a solid foundation and not on sand. So that's what I'm really looking at, the infrastructure part, getting the right people in, the right instructors in, the right administrators in to make sure that the community and the students are getting what they need. Thank you.
Thank
Could you
you.
repeat the question?
Yes. What specific goals would you have for SMSD that are new and innovative toward growing SMSD's enrollment?
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to preface this by we are in the middle of a pandemic, and most of these ideas probably will not be fully implemented by the end of a 3-year term. At the moment, we need to get through this pandemic, and we need to focus on the STEM school. We've got Dr. Bostic. It's a strong point. We need to stick with it. The jobs that are going to be coming through by the time elementary schoolers have graduated, we can't conceive of. They haven't been invented yet. We need to prepare our kids as widely as possible. That said, there are those types of industries like trades, welding, construction, plumbing, that are high-paying jobs that don't require a 4-year degree that might be very, very beneficial for our economically disadvantaged community that we need to focus on. The other thing we need to address is life skills, not in the traditional technical sense, but our strategic plan called for a game of real life. I'm talking about programs like Junior Achievement that will empower our students to learn things like budgeting that they can use in real life.
Thank you. Do we have a question from our panelists? Stefan, do you have a question for our?
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to ask because it was sort of mentioned before about so as it pertains to STEM and then also vocational training. I know Jacqueline, you mentioned the robotics program. What are some other ways that you can I guess try to improve not only college readiness but also just overall career and job preparedness?
Christopher, let's start with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way we can improve it is create partnerships, making sure that we are meeting industry standards, having boards that give us, industry boards that let us know what they're looking for. How do you want your employees to be trained? What is the most advanced or the technologies that are needed? And we partner with community college, which we do with Houston Community College. We partner with local jobs and industries to make sure. And we offer what's relevant to the industry. As was stated earlier, COVID has really thrown a hook in everything because it gives us a new way of doing business now. So we're going to have to go back and reevaluate everything that we're doing to make sure that we are relevant as a school district and we are offering our students the necessary skill sets that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Clint?
The thing I'd say is, kind of like I touched on before, the jobs of tomorrow don't exist yet. Earlier this year, I had an eye procedure done that didn't exist when I was in high school. We need to prepare our kids in the STEM program with the basics of science so that they understand everything that they need to learn so that when these procedures come and that they can learn how to do them, or these new scientific methods, these new mathematical formulas, they already have the basics that they can adapt to this very quickly. Regarding the trade schools, I think our partnership with HCC and we also probably should look at, if we have LOEs from out of district, maybe some of the adjacent community colleges that they may be associated with and that they may be zoned to make sure that we're getting them to those correct trade programs. Also, I was touching on Junior Achievement. Those teach you basic life things that young adults today wish that they had learned. How to balance a budget, how to do your taxes, basic things that can turn your job into something you can focus on and you don't have to worry about what happens at home.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
As Dr. Caldwell said, partnerships. We currently not only have with HCC, but like in our welding program, we have kids who do apprenticeships with some of our local businesses. Partnerships with local businesses to show our kids who are not going to college what other jobs are out there. I think we should further promote those type of programs. As far as the STEM Academy, I hope the goal of the STEM Academy is to get these kids science ready or mathematical or technology ready for college, because as I said, the jobs of today may not be the jobs of tomorrow, and being a person of the science field and dealing with engineering, there are new things coming across every day that the regular person don't see. So it is our job, once we open our STEM Academy, to ensure that our kids are ready, whether it's through robotics, whether it's through biotechnology, but that these kids are prepared through our rigorous curriculum.
Thank you. Do we have a question from Christy Nix?
So for your online students, what measures would you propose or support to address the question of cheating? Like a student that would use another laptop to look up the answers, or their phone. That's a question a lot of districts are grappling with, so creative ideas it's a challenging question. What do you think?
Clint, let's start with you.
To be honest, no matter what we do, kids are creative. They're going to find a way around it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I've talked to teachers about what they're doing right now. They've implemented time limits for exams to give you less time to go over to that second device and look up the answer. They've incorporated, you have to have your camera on so we can look at you and see that you're not wandering and staring through the textbook. All we can do is create preventative measures. Some kids will find ways around them, and the best we can do is try to find out what we can do to discourage them from trying those paths. I've seen it, unfortunately. My wife's been a teacher for over a decade before she became a counselor, and no matter what she's done, kids have found ways. But we just have to be vigilant. We just have to implement whatever we can to try to keep the kids honest and hope that that honor system stays in force.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
As he said, children of today are very creative, but in talking to parents and some teachers, I've noticed that a lot of teachers they've decided the cameras have to be on during any type of exam, and then the cameras have to be pointed towards the kids so that they can see whether you have your hands are doing what it's supposed to do. Also, as he said, time limits, and also just an honor program with the kids explaining the consequences of cheating. And I know most kids understand, but I don't really think they understand when we say you're going to get a 0 or you're going to get an F for this class. But kids are kids, and all we can do is trust them to know that their education is their future, and by cheating, they're cheating themselves of their future.
Thank you. Chris?
This is an area where we have to trust our faculty, staff, and administrators and those who are in charge. We have to make sure that our faculty members give students questions that make them think critically. You got to move away from true and false. You got to move away from multiple choice. I need you to think outside of the box and give me a very unique, one-of-a-kind answer that you can't Google, but it has to come from the essence of who you are. And as an instructor, I know my students, so I know your capacity of how to answer that question. That's how you keep them from cheating. Critical thinking and creative thinking. So you create questions where only one person is going to answer this question one way, and it's not going to be groupthink, because we all have our own mindsets and our own way of thinking and our own traditions, and that's going to fashion the answers that we have, and it makes students come out of the box and begin to be what we want them to be in a STEM program, critical thinkers.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to go to our closing statements. Per the rules, we're going to go in the order of your name on the ballot. In your closing, can you please address, you'll have 2 minutes, please address why should someone vote for you for Stafford MSD School Board. Jacqueline Jean-Baptiste, let's start with you.
I'll start off by saying I think that I want your support because I want to be the person who sets the policies for your kids. I am a person that is strong on academics. I believe that every kid, whether you choose to go to college or you don't, should get the best education possible. So no matter what job you take in life, that you're able to do the job, be able to think outside, like you said, outside of the box, and that you're able to, just succeed in life by your education. The other part, I think, is that I am physically responsible. Like, I look at what we spend, how we spend it, so that I don't look for today. I want to make sure that Stafford has money for years to come, that we don't outspend our budget to where we're looking and dipping in our general fund to support what we're doing today. I think you should support me because I believe in our teachers. I know that our teachers are the true heartbeat of this district. They're the ones who have their hands on our students. Our students see our teachers more than they see their parents during the week. When school is allowed to be open, kids are spending 8 hours a day in here. You go home 3 or 4 hours, do your homework, and then you're to bed and back to school. So we need to make sure that we have the right teachers in place, and I will support them. I believe in giving our kids the resources that they need, whether it's the iPads, whether it's a program that will help our kids succeed in whether it's foreign language, the STEM program, but I believe in academics. I also believe in our extracurricular activities for our kids, whether it's band, theater. I think that every kid should have the opportunity outside of their academic work to be able to stride and be successful in something else, their passion, because academics is everything, but their passion also counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Caldwell.
Two of the many reasons you should support me and vote for me as your next school board trustee. Number one, everything I do, the objectives, number one, everything I do is student focused, paying close attention to each student and creating an environment that will help them flourish to their full potential by exploring the needs of each student and developing a plan of action to address all of those needs. Number two, I will remain student-centered, which is at the base of every decision that I make on the board. The student is the core component that drives the inputs and outcomes. Everything is done with the student being the principal factor. The implementation of any program must be based around the student as it is fundamental. With those two objectives, the outcome is clear. We will have student achievement and student success. That's why you should vote for me.
Thank you. Clint Mendonça.
I've already outlined several of the reasons that you should vote for me. The first is fiscal responsibility. I'm a bank manager. I analyze and review budgets daily. It's just part of what I do. I came here straight from work, you can tell. On top of that, the need for improvement on academic rigor. I've heard from quite a few residents that I've talked to, we need to bring our Stafford students back to Stafford, back to the MSD. We're not going to do that with the quality of education that we're currently providing when our schools are getting C and D ratings from the state. Beyond that, I'm invested in this community. I did recently move here, only 4 years ago. I don't have the track record of the others. But my wife works for this district, and my future kids are going to this district. I'm not waiting to get involved. I'm getting involved now, so by the time my kids get here, we're back to our goal of having all A schools and an all A district. Beyond that, I'm not taking any donations from any companies that do business with the school district. No contractors, no vendors. I have no conflicts of interest. I'm here for you, the voters. Ultimately, it's your choice to make. My name is third on the ballot, but I hope that I'm your first choice.
Thank you. Thank you to all three Stafford MSD school board candidates for being with us this evening. Thank you to our panelists. And thank you to our audience, all these questions. We had so many questions, we couldn't even get to all of them, so I'm sorry about that. We ran out of time. But thank you for those. We are going to take a short break and disinfect the podiums and the mics, and we'll be back to hear from the Stafford City Council at around 7:05 p.m. Thank you. go ahead and get started. All right. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ken Matthew, who is running unopposed for Stafford City Council Position 6. Ken Matthew will not be a part of the questioning. However, he would like to give a statement. Please give us your statement.
Thank you, sir. My fellow Staffordians, thank you for electing me unopposed. I also want to thank the distinguished panelists and all my friends who already participated in the discussion and also who are going to participate in this forum. And also take this opportunity to thank Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce, especially Paige Tolbert and Kerry Smith. It is said that the original intent of the politics was for those who are willing to sacrifice. But nowadays, most politicians, not all, have manipulated it and made it politics for profit or want to make easy money. Our late Leonard Scarsella was different. We have to learn a lot of things from him. For 51 years, there was no allegation of misappropriation nor corruption. The school district is the vision of Mayor Scarsella. He was very careful with the money of the city. He will not approve anything that he seems a waste. Nowadays, during the time of the pandemic, not only our city, all the cities, all the places are facing financial difficulties. In our case also, the fund balance is coming down. I am thankful yesterday we were able to approve the budget for this year, which started today. But it was not easy. It was not easy at all. But the truth of the matter is, the money in the bank is coming less and less. So that's what we have to be careful about. And that is the reason if you look at my flyer, I would say stops wasteful spending, generate more revenue, attract highest sales tax generating businesses, attract a young professional to the city, build new subdivisions. When the young people come here, they bring their children, and this school is going to benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Oh. Thank you anyway. Thank you so much. Oh, I had a lot of things to say.
Sorry, we're short for time.
Anyway, thank you for giving me the chance to say at least a couple of sentences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let me review the rules for this forum. Paige Talbot will be the timekeeper. She will give you warnings on when you have 30 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, and then when you're supposed to stop. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes each for an opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. Now let me introduce our candidates for Stafford City Council Position 4, Don Jones and Adam Sanchez. Candidates, you'll have 2 minutes for your opening statements per the rules in the order of your name on the ballot. Don Jones, please give us your opening statement.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce for conducting this candidate forum. My name is Don Jones. I have lived in the city of Stafford for 32 years. I am a widower with one son who is a product of this school system. My son is a graduate of the University of Houston, I'm proudly to say. Go Cougs. I am running for re-election, position number 4. I'm asking to be re-elected for another term with the ambitious intent to build on the multitude of projects that have been moved forward in my first 2 years, 2 terms that were over a 4-year period. As a lifelong educator, as a teacher, assistant principal, and mid-manager at the a mid-management administrator at the community college level, I bring a unique experience, perspective in education to our municipal school district. As a city councilman serving, I am able to cast a vision for this city that is unique in itself. So again, I'm number 1 on the ballot. I ask for your vote. Vote for Don Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Sanchez.
I'd like to thank the city staff, Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. Thank you to the moderator and my fellow candidates. And I'd like to welcome everybody watching at home, and I hope everyone is staying safe during this time. My name is Adam Sanchez. I'm running to be your next Stafford City Council person for position 4. With your support and your votes, I would be honored to be the next generation of Stafford leadership. I look to bring an energetic, forward-thinking outlook to Stafford City Council. With my experience in public works, I have a unique perspective of how city government works from the inside out. I also know my way around Stafford City Hall, as I currently sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission Board. I'd like to address certain issues. I'd be dedicated to keeping zero city property tax right here in the city of Stafford. And how we're going to do that is by promoting Stafford attractions, the emergence of the grid, the fountains, and the revitalization of the Stafford Center to generate tax revenue for the city. I will work to make animal welfare a community priority, advocate for proactive flood and drainage strategies to keep Stafford residents safe and dry, work with the SMSD board to ensure that every child of Stafford has the highest level of education and safety at our schools. For more on the Sanchez for Stafford campaign, go to sanchezforstafford.com. I am humbly asking for your support and your vote this November 3rd to not only become the next city council person for position 4, but to be the next generation of Stafford leadership. I am number 2 on the ballot and number 1 for Stafford. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to our press panel for questions. You're going to have 1 minute to answer, and we will start with Shashadri Kumar with the Fort Bend Independent.
Yes. Mr. Jones, what are your accomplishments on City Council in the past 2 terms, and what are the reasons you would cite to the voters to get you re-elected? And Mr. Sanchez, what difference you would make on City Council if elected, and how you are different from the incumbent?
Mr. Jones, we'll start with you.
Yes. Thank you for your question. The accomplishments are too long for me to even to say them all in this very short period of time, but I did make a list to help everyone understand clearly. First, we had the Stafford City Council and the Stafford Economic Development Committee approve the economic development project known as the Grid. It is being developed by street level, and the redevelopment is taking place at the historic Texas Instruments site. I think all of us have found our way to that part of our city in the northwest corridor of the city at 59 and West Airport. Secondly, the road projects, our streets, when I came on the council, were not at the place that they are today. First, we had the FM 1092 West Airport development that was a part of the Fort Bend Mobility Bond, coupled with drainage projects, coupled with...
You're out of time.
Oh.
You're out of time, sorry. She's giving you the warnings right here.
Oh, I didn't know about the
No
warnings.
problem. Let's move on. Adam Sanchez, let's go. Your response.
Thank you. The differences, I would say, is that my unique perspective with public works and my experience in city government, I think I can better suit to serve the public. I've listened to many people in the streets that flood and drainage is a big issue in certain areas like Vaquero Manor, Missouri City Estates, and Sugar Creek. With my public works experience, again, I've been in the streets and drainage, so that's kind of in my wheelhouse, and I want to bring that to City Council. I also want to bring the energetic youthfulness, the next generation of Stafford, and that's attracting millennials, younger families that are willing to carry on the traditions of Stafford and keep it prosperous for the next generation.
Thank you. Let's go to our panel. Stefan Modric of Fort Bend Star.
Yes. So my question for both of you is, will the city of Stafford continue to use municipal water districts, and if not, would you consider switching and to having the city provide water? And what would you assess are the benefits or the downsides of both plans?
Mr. Sanchez, we'll start with you.
The MUD districts, the municipal water districts, I feel like they've done a good job. They have a water board. They have their own, way of governing. If the Stafford residents, I serve at the will of the people. The Stafford residents like their water. I drink my water out of the tap water. Certain areas, we just had that crisis in Lake Jackson. We have to stay vigilant on how our water is being served, is being taken care of and being served to the public. And as long as it's working, I'm willing to use it as long as it's going.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Briefly, the quality of our water is one of the most critical attributes in a community. I believe that the current water district is doing an outstanding job. We have to remain vigilant to make sure that they have what they need. We have to make sure they are in collaboration with all water sources that work together in Fort Bend with them. So quality water and sustaining that in our community is a top priority.
Thank you. Let's go to our third panelist, who is Christine Nix from the Houston Chronicle. Please ask your question.
What future measures would you propose or support to increase government transparency and voter accountability?
Mr. Jones, we'll start with you.
Voter transparency and what was that?
Government transparency and voter accountability.
Voter accountability. Those are two current topics nationally as well as locally. I think a fair and honest election is mandatory in every community. I think that the process should be well publicized, either by your means of communication, where people know where to go, how to vote, when to vote. I think communication is the key as far as voting is concerned. We have a special election coming up, and my most major concern is if people know where to vote. So I'm pleading to you as media sources to make sure that you help us in making sure that it is communicated on what is happening in the special election as far as where we are to vote.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Voter accountability, especially in these tough times, in these elections that seem to be the most important of our generation every year. We have to get out the vote. We have to educate the public so they know the issues. They know their elected officials. They know they can hold their public officials to the fire, so to speak. And it's the responsibility of everybody. It's a civic duty, and people have fought and died for that right. Everybody has the right to vote, and I feel like we need to educate the public, and it starts at the school level when we learn civics in our schools that this is what democracy is. That's what makes this country great.
Thank you. We'll go with our first question from the audience. If you could change one thing about the city zoning code, what would it be and why? Mr. Sanchez, we'll start with you.
Well, zoning code, since I sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission, that's kind of in my wheelhouse. I I would like to see the zoning code more work towards the small businesses in our city. Since we rely so much on the sales tax, providing incentives and putting small businesses and the businesses in our city in the best possible way to succeed and better serve the community. Like the 1092 Island Corridor, that's one of the big topics now. Zoning was a big part of the TI project, the grid project. If we can turn the island into something comparable to the grid, the possibilities are endless for tax revenue for the city and the prosperity of Stafford.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Could I have the question repeated?
Yes. If you could change one thing about the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
Zoning in the state of Texas is a very hot issue. Every community has a code, and our code and the flexibility in the code and the transparency, to use a word from a previous question, is very important. I'm not exactly sure that people understand beyond the business community what the code is. So educating our community to how the code works and what the parameters of the code is and how it will benefit them in understanding what the code is, I think the involvement of our constituents will help them understand why business develops in a certain area and in certain places within the city, and they would be forewarned to know what is going on in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next question from our audience. The city transferred almost $4 million from the Stafford Economic Development Corporation funds to make up a substantial budget deficit. How does the city plan to make up this deficit next year, considering that this was a Band-Aid to help stop the shortfall this year? Mr. Jones, we'll start with you.
Who in the world asked that question?
Wasn't
We
me.
passed a $27 million bond issue just yesterday, and we worked. I can't count it was historic what has happened to this nation as well as our community. We depend on sales tax revenue primarily to fund our budget. And that particular issue in the next 2 quarters, our work is before us. So that is why I am emphasizing why experience matters so much. This new experience where there was 77 years of public service experience that was involved in creating and passing the current budget without the great Leonard Scarcella being involved. But we did it. We accomplished it. Now the challenge before us is to come up with a plan to replace that revenue. And it's going to take experience to matter to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. The city transferred almost $4 million from the Stafford Economic Development Corporation funds to make up a substantial budget deficit. How does the city plan to make up this deficit next year, considering that this was a Band-Aid to help stop the shortfall this year?
I think it's supporting the small businesses that contribute to the sales tax of Stafford. During this campaign, during the campaign and the extended campaign because of the pandemic, I started the hashtag Support Stafford, which I went to small businesses and we kind of I try to give them a little publicity on social media to bring awareness to their businesses, because when our small businesses make money, the Stafford city makes money. And that's why it's so important for Stafford residents and the city of Stafford to attract people from outside of our area to come to Stafford and spend their hard-earned dollars, especially in times like this. So even though it was a Band-Aid, we have to be vigilant. We have to think outside the box to create tax revenue so we can make it through this crisis.
Thank you. Let's go back to our panelists. Shashadri, you have a question?
Yes. I want to touch on the mayoral salary. People of Stafford voted for a salary for the mayor, and the city council fixed it at $120,000, if I'm right. Though you cannot now change the salary aspect, but you can control the amount of salary being paid. Do you think that money is justified, it is too much or too less? Will you do anything for a change if it is necessary?
Mr. Sanchez, let's start with you.
Stafford is unique in a way that we don't have a city manager. If you did a survey to surrounding cities, that's the comparable salary for city managers. I know I voted yes on that referendum in 2018 because our late Mayor Scarcella didn't take that much of a salary for all the years that he led this city, and he dedicated his life, and that's a very tall task to pass on to anybody that will be up here in the next hour. Would it be, I mean, the alternative would be to hire a city manager. And I feel like our way of government, the way our government is set in Stafford, it makes sense to have that salary.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Yes, those salaries, the city council, along with the mayor's salary, came from a comprehensive, exhaustive study where when the last time that the city charter was reorganized, this particular topic was included. It was a long-asked question about the salaries of Stafford, city council and the mayor. The study included a comparison of the market of cities of its same size, where our new personnel director was engaged. There was a consultant that came in to give us guidance on what our salaries may look like. So again, it was an overall comprehensive study that was done, that was conducted to create those numbers. I think it's always good to look at those numbers again and consider what is best for our city.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to our panel. Stefan, do you have a question?
Yes. What are the top short-term priorities within the next year, and then if you can project out to the next 5 to 10 years, what are your long-term priorities for the city?
In 1 minute, Mr. Jones.
That's not going to happen. Well, being a former educator, schools, first and foremost, the quality and effectiveness of our schools is at the top of my list. I can't help but being that way. We serve in a municipal school district. I, being a former educator, bring that experience. So when I come on this campus, I used to be a school principal right back there and assistant principal right over there. So when I come on this, I call it a campus now. So schools first and foremost. We have to have common sense fiscal policy. We have to establish and maintain a citywide infrastructure that includes Missouri City Estates, that includes Vaquero Manor. They should have the same infrastructure systems as any city, any community in this city. We should have clean, safe, family-friendly parks and recreation. Stafford, as a community, needs to celebrate its rich diversity, and we need to have smart, competitive economic development growth plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
I was impressed. Short term, flood and drainage is a big issue, hot topic. No matter what you feel about climate change, the storms in the Gulf are getting bigger and badder by the year. Flood drainage throughout the city, because just because it worked this storm season doesn't mean it'll work next storm season. So being vigilant, being proactive on that would be short term. Animal welfare, partnering up with Missouri City would be another short term that's easy to fix with the TNR program, bolstering our relationship with Missouri City. 5 to 10 years, I want to make Stafford a point of destination. That's why promoting our Stafford attractions with the emergence of the grid, the fountains, and the Stafford Center to generate the tax revenue that can take us into the next generation.
Thank you. Let's go back to our panelists. Christy Nix.
What future measures would you support or propose to improve animal services and overall animal welfare?
Mr. Sanchez.
Well, that's a nice little segue. I would like to bolster our relationship, like I said before, with Missouri City. I feel like I have a good network and background when it comes to animal services. TNR is a big thing. We have 2 rescue beagles, and there's more times than not a foster at the house due to my significant other. That's one thing we can do. Really, I've talked to the director of the animal shelter in Missouri City, and one thing that she's told me that she needs fosters and volunteers, and I think we can help her with that in Stafford, because there's a lot of animal lovers here at Stafford. So I would propose more community involvement when it comes to animal welfare in our city.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Yes, I'm an animal lover. Right now, I am bugging my son unmercifully to get a new dog, but it's a huge responsibility, animals. So it's a responsibility in a community. How we treat our animals is a reflection of our true selves. So anytime, our partnership with Missouri City has been very effective, but we certainly in the city have a wish list on our wish list to create our own animal control, have our own animal control facility. That's the ideal, that's a long-term goal, and I can only hope that we can fulfill that.
Thank you. Let's go back to the audience questions. With over 56% of Stafford residents not having any children in the home, what benefits or advantages do they have for investing in SMSD? Say that 3 times fast. How will you work to engage them? Mr. Jones, let's start with you.
You know, I was a school administrator on this campus, and the limited open enrollment concept started during my tenure during that time. At the time, we were trying to avoid paying. We were considered a rich district, and a lot of our funding was being recaptured. So we had to become very creative. This city, like was mentioned before in the previous debate, is a landlocked city, and therefore the expansion and growth of the population is challenged at best. So if you look around this campus from the time I was here and what I see today, and with the current administration that is in place, starting with the school board, I think that our future is very bright. You cannot drive on this campus and not be exhilarated and enthused. And so if you build it, as we have to compete with the surrounding school districts, they will come.
Okay, stop. Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
It's the school district is one of the pride and joys of Stafford, since we're the only municipal school district in the state. We have to attract young families that are willing to start a family in Stafford. But with no zero property tax, it's kind of hard to get people to move out. So once you're here in Stafford, you normally tend to stay. So it's going to be a tightrope walk between the families that don't have kids, the empty nesters, if you will, and attracting new young millennial families to start families and come to SMSD. The new programs that SMSD has is a good way to attract young families. We are landlocked, and that's another obstacle that we're going to have to overcome. But I think with the grid and the new apartment complexes, condos, is a good way to attract young families for years to come.
Thank you. All right, next question from the audience. What future projects do you envision to help advance the economy in the city of Stafford? Mr. Sanchez, let's start with you.
Y'all always start with me with the tough questions. That goes back to one of my main points, is promoting Stafford as a point of destination. We have to combine the grid, the fountains, and the Stafford Center, not only to attract people from our area and our residents to spend their hard-earned dollars in Stafford, but it makes it a point of destination, somewhere you want to come Because once we get them here, if we could utilize the Stafford Center to bring in maybe a Tejano Fest, a Gospel Fest, a Comic-Con, if you will, it brings vendors. Those vendors have to stay in hotels. Once you get them in the hotels, they're going to have to eat. And if they get them to eat, they're going to walk around the grid, and they're probably going to spend some money. So off of certain events that we attract people to Stafford will only generate tax revenue to promote the city in the best light, and also generate tax revenue to put back in the fund balance.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Yes, I believe that we need to, it's 2020, the year is 2020. That is a unique year. We need to plan this next fiscal year to market and promote our community. Along with the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce partnering with us, the Sugar Land area as a whole, the Fort Bend area as a whole, is a very, very attractive part of the city. And we need to point out, shine a light on, we have a development that's going on that people see from Highway 59, Interstate 69. And when people look over and wonder, we've got to start letting people know that we're here and that we're open for business and that we are exciting and a great place to spend so we can generate that much needed tax revenue.
Thank you. Let's go to our panelists. Shashadri, you have a question?
Yes. The island area has been a topic of discussion for nearly 2 decades. Do you have any specific concept or idea to develop that into different transformation from than what it is?
Mr. Jones?
Yes. It begins with what we've already accomplished in my first 2 terms. There was when you think about the promenades, the business development, that is the new development that is on the perimeter of the island. The island represents a historic aspect of our city, and it should be preserved. That historic aspect needs to be preserved. But I think that the synergy and the energy that comes from the new development, we can use that as an example. That should attract, in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. So when developers see that we have the success that we've established on the perimeter of the island, it can't do anything but trickle down and make it highly probable that they would want to invest in our island also.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez?
The development of the island, I think if we could do something like the grid, or maybe something like Washington Avenue, if you will, if we could preserve the historic, rich history that is Stafford, Texas, it lies right there on the island. And I think it's an economic gold mine if we plan it right, if we bring in the right developer, if we bring in the right businesses. The promenade area has a lot of fast food. You can go get a Chick-fil-A burger or a Popeyes anywhere. But on the island, you can only come to Stafford if you want a Best Burger. And we have to attract our businesses and support small businesses on the island, whether it's development, bars, entertainment, restaurants, boutiques. I feel like the island is a possible comparable situation to the grid, and would only better Stafford.
Thank you.
My
All right.
Stop sign.
Let's go to our panelist, Mr. Modric.
Yes. So, in your capacity on the city council, how would you work with your partners in the county and the state level and the TABC to handle the bars and the restaurants that have been affected by the pandemic, and what kind of relief can you attempt to offer them?
Mr. Sanchez?
We have to be creative. The TABC has really put our bars in a unique position, a troubling position, when it compares to restaurants that also serve alcohol. Just because you serve a little bit of food does not keep the coronavirus at bay. We should work with our county officials, our elected representatives in the state and federal level to find funding. If they're forced to shut down, then we have to come up with something that will keep them going. That just because you shut down a bar doesn't mean it just affects the owner. It affects the people that go to it. Just like the VFW down the street in Missouri City, which a lot of the vets are from Stafford. I had to talk with them, and they can't do halls, they can't do parties, they can't do things like that. So we have to get creative. We need to help them out because this pandemic threw a curveball to everybody, and we can't just pick and choose what businesses open and which have to stay closed.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
I would like to hear from those small business owners, those restaurants. I would like to have a community forum right here in this building. I don't know if it can be accomplished. I think anything can be accomplished if we just follow the guidelines of the CDC right now, wear our mask, distance, keep our distances. I think that these people need to be, these business owners, forgive me, need to be heard from. We need to hear directly from them to know specifically what they need. And then we also need to bring those resources in this forum that are available. The Small Business Administration is providing loans as I speak. And so we need to connect those entities to the help that they need. But I personally would be open to a community forum, a business forum, if you will, of small business owners, and certainly invite all businesses that want to participate in helping us come up with a revitalization plan.
Thank you. Christy Nix, you have a question?
In your opinion, what are the most crucial issues facing the city over the next 12 months, and what measures would you propose to meet those challenges?
Mr. Jones.
We've already discussed it. I don't want to be redundant, but it bears repeating. We are living in a time that is truly unique in itself, a world pandemic. We have been in the grips of this pandemic, and it has been controlling every community in this country. Our little small city, shining city here in Stafford, has just experienced being a tax, sales tax revenue generating system. We have really been set back. So we have to really be smart on how we're going to plan our future. But the future is with the past budget. We have learned the way it was scrutinized. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Like my opponent said, the budget, it will be the sales tax revenue. How can we increase that? Who knows if we can afford another Band-Aid? Who knows how long this pandemic is going to continue? But I do see the community helping each other, whether it's through food drives, PPE drives. The community is here to help each other. And I feel like that is more evident here in Stafford because I live here and so I see it all. But yeah, the next 12 months will be very trying, and whoever is elected on November 3rd will have to work with the council and work with our new mayor to come up with a plan that hopefully generates more tax revenue, whether that's supporting small businesses, whether that's bringing in new businesses, whether that's jump-starting entrepreneurial programs so we can start new businesses. And that's working with county, state, and federal officials.
Thank you. All right. Question from the audience. Do you have a plan to adequately address the ongoing lack of proper drainage in our city neighborhoods, in particular those that still have street ditches like in Vaccaro Manor or Linda Street? Mr. Sanchez, we'll start with you.
I always get the streets and drainage questions. I think working with our neighboring cities, making interlocal agreements. We are landlocked. All the cities drain their water into the same place. So there's only so much that can drain out. But a lot of the problems are debris in the way, like you mentioned with the ditches. Are they graded the right way? Do we need to get our to work with Public Works from all over our area, from the Meadows, from Missouri City to Sugar Land to Harris County? What can we do to work together so we can make our drainage systems work at the maximum efficiency? And sometimes it's just debris. There's debris in the way. Is it the way the water flows that can be more efficient? And I think interlocal agreements within municipalities would benefit the residents of Vaquero Manor and others in our city.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
I'm of the mindset, in my 4 years on city council, I think within our second year, we had a hurricane that caused some flooding in this city that exposed our city as seeming to not have planned for every community. I'm of the mindset that every community, from Missouri City Estates to the Grove West subdivision, should have the same drainage system as far as curb and gutter is concerned. I think that if we plan carefully, collaborate with those around us, surrounding us in this county, I think that we should be able to plan. We need to plan, and we should want that for every community, that they have the same. They don't have to have their children come to them and ask them, "Mommy, is it going to rain and flood again?" I've heard these cries, and it went straight to my heart, and it should never happen in our city.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez. Did we already?
I would first.
Sorry. Next question is for you. What? I'm sorry. Let me go back to Mr. Jones.
Yes.
What style of leadership does the city need to have right now?
We need to have a proactive style of leadership. I'm going to create my own topic and call it a proactive style, because it is a new day for Stafford. We had a mayor that was the mayor of this city for 50 years. We had become accustomed to his thinking, and he was a brilliant man when it came to civics and policy and procedure as far as managing a city is concerned. But now it's a new day. And so we have to look forward to the next mayor. We need to pay very close attention to what's needed from that mayor that will make this city council whole, because our best days are ahead of us, but we need a proactive, progressive thinking mayor to lead us forward.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
I think Councilman Jones is right that Mayor Scarcella was a visionary. When the municipal school district was created, it wasn't even thought of anywhere else. So this is a city of innovation. That's the type of leadership we need. Forward-thinking, innovative ideas to carry us into the next generation, to carry us into the next year. We need that type of leadership, and I feel like that I can propose that. I bring that to the table with city government experience, and me being a millennial, I see the things that are happening in our world, in our area. You just have to listen to the residents and see. And the residents that I've been talking to, they see the vision. They see what can happen to Stafford, where it can go, the potential to not only unlock in the city, but unlock for our residents as well going forward.
Okay. Do we have a question from our panelists? Or should I just go ahead to an audience?
Look at the audience.
Anybody? All right. Let's start with this question. Can we bring in recycling? What are your thoughts on recycling? Mr. Sanchez.
Recycling in our city is very beneficial, but it has to be looked at as a cost effective, especially right now with our budget as tight as it is. Recycling does help our earth, but it doesn't take just our city government to do that. It takes every single person in our community to do that. Instead of using single-use plastics when you go to the grocery store, taking your reusable bags when you go grocery shopping, to better choices when you can use one of those straws, those metal straws, so you don't have to use that single plastic. I think we can all do part in recycling without it being a city-funded initiative. We can all do our part, from either it's littering, cleaning up our community. We can all do parts that save the planet and keep our areas clean and free of debris.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
If anyone is not aware that the environment is very, very important, we as custodians of our environment, they just need to think again. Conservation and educating our children on how important that is can be demonstrated by having a recycling program. But again, it must be cost effective. I think that it should always be in the discussion of a city when you're planning to maintain your environment. But one thing that we maybe can accomplish is to emphasize and stress a no littering campaign and keep our city clean campaign to initiate and maybe jumpstart the idea of going back to a recycling program in our city.
Thank you. All right. One more question from our audience. How many tire shops do we need in Stafford? Mr. Jones, start with you.
How many tire shops do we need? I think Discount Tire, that may not be in Stafford, that one. You know what, the tires, that again falls under the conservation question to me. That we have to manage that. Again, in the zoning question, that falls into the zoning question. We just have to be cognizant of the fact that how those particular businesses, which in fairness to them, they deserve to have their businesses, and we all need tires on our car. So it's no need to complain about it. We just have to figure out and work out what is best for our city and the health of our city as far as the environment is concerned, and how they manage the environment and be a part of this city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez.
Well, off the top of my head, I don't know how many tire shops we actually do have, but I would not like to stop the entrepreneurial spirit of Stafford, but I would also like to have tire shops and businesses alike in certain areas due to the zoning. I think that's something we can do in the Planning and Zoning Commission. The zoning laws actually can help that. I'm sure this person says that there's too many tire shops on the island, so that's something that we can address. But in planning, but going forward, I would hate to stipend any entrepreneurial person that wanted to start a tire shop or something like that. I would like it to be somewhere, maybe in our business center part, where it's aesthetically pleasing.
All right. In your opinion, what is the most important issue that has not been raised tonight that you would like to address? Mr. Sanchez, let's start with you.
Well, I think we covered it all, but no. I think it all stems down to one thing, and that is keeping zero city property tax here in Stafford. It's going to have to be creative with council and our new mayor, whoever that may be. That will be an issue that can go on forever, but it takes the ideas, the innovative thinking, to raise more sales tax, to promote Stafford as the gateway to Fort Bend. We can market Stafford as an economic alternative to our big neighbor, Houston, during big events like the Super Bowl, World Series, different conventions. Raising tax revenue is the root of Stafford at this time. because of the budget issues, because of this pandemic that has thrown a curveball our way. So I feel like being dedicated to keeping a zero city property tax is the number one issue.
Thank you. Mr.
Well,
Jones.
I believe that we have discussed that issue, but there are several things that I think that could have been stressed and emphasized a little bit more. We passed an $80 million bond for our schools to develop what you see in the new middle school and what you see in the new administration building. The brain power that be has also is starting to develop the idea of converting the old administration building into a community center. What a wonderful idea. That's outstanding. I can't wait to see how that flourishes. So the one thing I'd like to see us do more of, being an old school teacher, is to promote our school district in order to attract those students from everywhere into our magnet program, which is soon to be developed. The future for Stafford Municipal School District is bright.
Thank you. All right, another question we have from the audience. With over 43% of the Stafford residents being over 60 years of age, what specific plans do you have to engage this age bracket of residents? Mr. Jones. It's just the luck. It's just the order of the draw.
Counselor, that's an interesting question. I'm 65 years old, and I celebrate that fact. I feel like a grown-up now. And so with this seasoned, experienced constituency that I speak for, I think that we need to be aware of that and try to develop and try to create programs like the community center that can be our strength. Health programs for the elderly, nutrition programs for the elderly. I would like to see all those classes brought to our community center. I want everybody to be very keenly aware how much of an asset and financial as far as generating sales tax revenue that we are.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. With over 43% of Stafford residents being over 60 years of age, what specific plans do you have to engage this age bracket of residents?
I think that's a very important question, a very a demographic that many times gets overlooked. And as they get older, you always hear the old additive, always tell your loved ones that they love them. But especially during this pandemic when they are the most at risk, if you listen to the experts. But I think health and more activities for that demographic would be very keen to engaging that demographic, keeping them active, making activities. Always, we always talk about millennials are the future, but they also, like Councilman Jones said, that they add a lot to the economy in their golden years. But I think they are very good to the economy also as well. I'm sorry, I haven't reached that age yet, so it's very. But I would like to engage them more and get them more involved in community activities.
Thank you. All right, next question. How many local elections have you voted in the city of Stafford? Mr. Sanchez, start with you.
Off the top of my head, 3 or 4.
Okay. Mr. Jones.
I've lived in the city for 32 years. I would hate for someone to fact check, but I believe that every election that we have had, I've participated in. I've always admired, that may not be the right descriptive. Politics has always been a great interest to me. I became interested in politics when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. I remember where I was. And from that day forward, I kind of adopted one of the great statements that he said, in my thinking when he said, not asking why, but asking why not. I've incorporated that in my own philosophical way of thinking. So I've always participated in politics. It's fascinating that I'm here today and being able to participate. I'm an educator on a city council that has a municipal school district. There's no substitute for that.
Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to give your closing statements. You're going to have 2 minutes to give your closing statements in order of your name on the ballot. Please address why should we vote for you for Stafford City Council position 4. Start with you, Mr. Don Jones.
You should vote for me, Stafford, because experience matters. I started to list my accomplishments or what we have accomplished since I've been on the City Council. It includes the economic development of the street level project known as the grid. It includes improving the roads in our city. It includes overseeing the building of the fire and police stations. That project has been long awaited. It includes the Stafford Municipal School District having an $80 million bond project to create what you see around you. This has all been accomplished by experience. We just passed a $27 million budget, and it took 77 years of city council experience when you add up the years on that city council. And my 4.5 years mattered. The experience and what I had learned from Mayor Scarcella and this city council and the council prior to it is priceless. It's going to take experience to move our city forward. You can't learn on the job. You will set us back by doing so. And Mr. Sanchez, when you think about this wonderful silver age of people, just think about your parents as far as what you would want for them if the next time you get an opportunity to discuss that. Thank you, Stafford. Vote for me. I'm number 1 on the ballot. I am Don Jones. My Facebook page, go to my Facebook page and like me. And my website will be set up by the weekend, www.hondjones1.com.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Adam Sanchez.
Again, I'd like to thank the city staff, Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. Thank you to the moderator and our fellow candidates. Thank you to everybody watching virtually, safely. They say experience matters, and that I do agree with, Mr. Jones. But I ask you, Stafford, to look at my platform, look at my resume, and look at my experience. I have city government experience in public works, experience in streets and drainage, experience with working with all departments in city government, experience during natural disasters, experience serving the public. I have Stafford City Hall experience. I have Planning and Zoning Commission experience. I am the candidate that will not only champion our rich, deep history that is Stafford, Texas, but the one that is forward-thinking vision to keep Stafford prosperous for the next generation. The last day to register to vote is October 5th. Early voting is during October 13th through the 30th. And again, I am humbly asking the residents of Stafford for your support and your vote this November 3rd to not only be your next city council person for position 4, but to be the next generation of Stafford leadership. I am number 2 on the ballot, number 1 for Stafford. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you to both of our Stafford City Council candidates for being with us. Thank you to our panelists for the questions, and thank you to the audience. We'll take a short break to disinfect the podiums and microphones, and when we come back, we will hear from the City of Stafford mayoral candidates at around 8:10. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our mayoral candidates for the city of Stafford. First, we have Arthur A.J. Honore, Wen Guerra, Cecil Willis, and Jim Narvios. I'm going to review the rules. Paige Talbot would be the timekeeper. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. Candidates will receive a reminder for 30 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, and then stop. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes each for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. You will have 2 minutes for your opening statements per the rules in the order of your name on the ballot. So we will start with Arthur A.J. Honore.
Good evening, Stafford. I'm A.J. Honore, and I'm asking for your vote as Stafford's next mayor. 34 years ago, Gloria and I moved to Stafford. We raised 4 children who attended Stafford MSD. From being president of Stafford Youth Basketball Association and a Sunday school teacher, not a day goes by without community service being a part of my life. I'm a graduate of the School of Business at TSU and a former student of the Law Center at U of H. I was a vice president for J.P. Morgan Chase, serving as bond trustee for 36 school districts and managed over $3 billion in economic development bond projects. Also managed over 2,000 employees as the employee relations director. I'm founder and president of Affordable Energy, In Green Power and Light, and Masiba Theater for the Performing Arts. I have a lot of experience with the SBA. I was recently appointed to serve the SBA as a reservist to help entrepreneurs recover from the economic injury caused by COVID-19. I was appointed to serve on the first Home Rule Charter Commission, the Zoning Adjustment Board, and the Island Beautification Committee. I'm the only candidate that has the experience and the vision to maintain the legacy of zero property tax started by our Mayor Scarcella. I am the only candidate that has the experience to raise the $25 million in capital to complete important infrastructure projects in our neighborhoods. As Mayor Pro Tem, I pushed forward several projects like drainage, sidewalks, street lighting, the grid, promenade estates, and the retail centers on Highway 90. I proposed the Stafford Convention and Visitors Bureau, helped to establish the Human Resources Department, and a 5-year capital project study that now needs to move forward. Every election is a choice, and this year the choice of Stafford's mayor is clear. Vote A.J. Honore, number 1 on the ballot, as your mayor, and we will move Stafford forward together.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra.
Thank you very much. To all of you in public, I am not a new face. I stood here in front of you in 2002. I've been honored and a diligent, hardworking person for the position of mayor. Since those years have gone by, I have multiple hats with the city in different committees and presidency of the EDC and acting mayor as we stand here. Leonard Scarcella left a indelible impression on myself. We didn't always agree, but to learn from this man was incredible for me to step back when he did pass and not absorb and use those skills as we stand. I bring a conservative government, a business mind. I'm a poor politician, but I'm a good businessman. I'm bringing in economic growth to this city. I was instrumental in bringing the grid and a lot of the developments that are working on Highway 90 as we speak. That is the only way we are going to succeed in perpetuating the zero property tax of the city of Stafford. We are wavering because of the COVID-19 and the recession. But with this, we did balance the budget. The first time in 51 years that Leonard Scarcella, our wonderful mayor, did not have his hands on it. I looked into the position of what I needed to do, and I created an A team. The man to my left was one of them. We created the budget to present to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Willis.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I first want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event for the City of Stafford, SME TV, and HCC. I also want to thank our moderator and our panelists for posing those important questions. I am Councilman Cecil Willis, and I am running for mayor of Stafford. It's been my honor and privilege to serve you, and I appreciate that opportunity very much for the past 36 years. I'm not going to go into my relationship with Mayor Scarcella except to say this. He asked me to give his eulogy at his funeral. That's enough said about that relationship. There are 4 candidates on this stage. There are 4 totally different concepts of where they want to take Stafford. You can mark that in your books. 2 of my opponents have a record of elected service to this city for you to judge. My other opponent has no record, only rhetoric for you to judge. This is not a time for internships. It's not a time for on-the-job training. It's also not the time to abandon the ship. I will continue the course that Mayor Scarcella has set. It's sound, it got us to where we are, and there's no reason to throw something out. I want to get this in right now. I'm not going to ask for your vote because it's illegal to ask for your vote on a municipal television station. Everybody should know that. I've known it for years. So if you're going to hold public office and you want to be mayor of Stafford, you need to know the rules. After tonight, I hope you will know that experience, dedication, and commitment count. I have the most experience, the most commitment, and dedication. And she stopped me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Narvios. I have never held an elected office position in my life. But I want to ask you a question. Do you remember a time in your life where you never did something and you were starting to do something? Well, COVID-19 has called me. I believe that God has called me to serve the people of Stafford. COVID-19 and the passing of our recent Mayor Scarcella has left the city uncertain. And with that uncertainty, I felt a need to serve the people. Now, let me introduce myself to you since I'm not a familiar face. I attend Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I graduate in December. And throughout the course of my legal education, my focus was on local government and legislation. I served as the City of Houston's spokesperson for multiculturalism and diversity for the last 15 years of my life. And despite the fact that I may not be experienced as an elected official, I've always had my hand on the heartbeat of the community. Now, this isn't an issue of Democrat or Republican. It's not an issue of white, black, Mexican, or Asian. It's not an issue of old or young. What it is it's the issue of looking backwards or focusing our eyes on the future. Now, I applied something in my life that has transformed my life completely. In order to change the things in your life, you have to change the things in your life. In order to see a new result, you must be willing to try something new. I am a bold and unapologetic individual with the energy to protect your legacy. And I also have the energy to make history. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we will go to our panelists for questions. We'll start with Shashadri Kumar of the Fort Bend Independent.
Yes. One of you had been on City Council for 36 years, the other one for 18, and you for 6 years, and the fourth one had no experience with the local government. 3 of you would face a question from the voters. You have been too long on City Council. You may not be able to think outside the box. Why should we elect you? And you are a total newcomer. What skill sets do you have to succeed as a mayor?
Thank you. Mr. Honore, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. That's a very good question. One of the reasons why we implemented term limits was to create an opportunity for transition of leadership. And that's why one of the key components that any leader needs to have to be great is that they need to have a succession plan. I was on council for 5 years, about a little less than halfway through what we set as term limits for someone to serve as a council member. So I'm at that moderate level. I've got great experience on what's going on council. I have a great business background, understand what's happening with our finances. I understand what happened last night when council transferred $8 million. So that experience triggered with the creativity that I bring to the table and the moderate position that I have as an experienced council member puts me in the best position to lead this city forward and to carry the mantle forward, particularly with zero property tax.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra?
Well, it's pretty explicit what I'm trying to achieve. I'm going to perpetuate zero property tax with pure economic growth. I'm working right now with 3 developers that are going to transform the corridor of Highway 90. The transformation is growing from the west and it's rolling into the east side of town, and hopefully it will get into the island. The concept of zero property tax is the only concept that this city has held for the last 25 years. I am not going to wrinkle it. I'm not going to throw it on the ground. I want to perpetuate it with more economic growth and supplemental income. With that being said, the supplemental income is no weight on the citizens of Stafford.
Thank you. Mr. Willis?
Thank you. Great question. We talked earlier about engaging the senior citizens. I'm going to make the statement that was made in a presidential debate years ago. I'm not going to hold these gentlemen's youth and inexperience against them. I know what I'm doing. The citizens of Stafford have vetted me 20 times, 18 city elections and 2 water board elections. They know what they're getting. I'm committed to this city. I know where the bones are buried. I know where the closet is. I know what the city limits are. I don't go outside the city limits cleaning up areas because I read something on social media and rushed out there. I concentrate on Stafford and tending to the people of Stafford and the needs of Stafford, and I will continue to put Stafford first, period.
Thank you. Mr. Navios?
What unique skill sets do I have? Am I correct? Okay. So I'm a firm believer in advocacy, bringing people justice. It's one of the reasons I attended law school. And one of the greatest things that I learned at Thurgood Marshall School of Law is how to issue spot, policy, how policy is made. I know how it contributes to our society. So what I have to offer to the people is I'm going to lend my ear. I'm going to facilitate their problems, their issues, and I'm going to make sure that our funding is utilized in a proper manner to assist them with their immediate needs. I'm not going to spend my money frivolously. Now I'm going to end this with this. Yes, I may not know where the bones are buried, and I may not have the experience that they have, but you have to understand we are in the position that we're in today because of the administration that has come before me.
Thank you. We go to our panelists now for another question. We go to Stefan Modrich of the Fort Bend Star.
Earlier tonight, the Stafford Economic Development Corporation was referenced, and I wanted to pose the question to all 4 of you, but first to Mr. Guerra concerning, if I understand correctly, that you differed from Mayor Scarcella on how that money should have been used, and please correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I just wanted to ask what that funding can be deployed for in the future, and how would you allocate it?
Mr. Guerra.
The question is easy to answer. There's a lot of working parts to your question. But the main question is to attract businesses under the condition of this recession we're in and the COVID that we're fighting. I am working with small businesses right now that are in danger of shutting down because of their funding has been shut down completely. I'm working with them as we speak. We are made up of a majority of mom and pop businesses. We are bringing in bigger industries as far as fast food and, let's say, nicer restaurants that are bringing income. And in fact, that's what has kept this city afloat during this situation that we are. It's not permanent. We're getting over it.
Thank you. Mr. Willis.
Let me state first that the SEDC transfers money every year to the city general fund, period. That's a fact. Many funds, the MST fund and other funds, transfer funds and have for years. The difference this year, it was a larger amount than had been transferred in the previous years. It was also to the fact that the first time in 51 years, City Council was handed a deficit budget, and Council pulled together, all 6 council members, the city staff, pulled together and worked together and scrubbed and looked at it. There is a light to the end of this tunnel. Stafford has a strong, sound economic base. It's getting stronger. In fact, in August, the city received the largest, you hear me, the largest sales tax check ever received in the city of Stafford. So we're going to get out of this. We are not going to panic. We're going to stay the course.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is pertaining to the SEDC and the funding and how you would like to use that to assist small businesses during the pandemic.
Well, I want to state a number for you. $555,555. Did you know that's how much it costs to build the monuments? You know, when I ran this campaign, I found out things that disturbed me. That money could have been utilized for certain things that were the immediate needs of our citizens, our residents. We could have created something that would have developed sales tax. Instead, we have beautiful monuments, but I spoke with engineers and they could have done it for a fraction of the cost. Additionally, we have shrubbery. We have these trees all across the train tracks. We spent millions of dollars. This could have gone towards specific endeavors to bring in sales tax in order for us to continue to enjoy our zero property tax. So for those of y'all at home, I just want you to understand that you have the right and you have the power to do your due diligence and find out the information.
Thank you. Mr. Honore.
I'm going to bring this conversation back to the SEDC, and I want to address what Mr. Willis said in terms of knowing the rules. And if he knows the rules and he knows that SEDC is a state-regulated corporation, it is illegal for us to transfer money to the SEDC, and we have not done that in the past. We have paid for services that city employees have offered to the SEDC. That's not a transfer. That's a payment of services. And that's why when they did the deal last night to move $4 million, they had to construct it in order to show that that they were going to do projects. Now, these are not projects that will generate revenue and income for the city. So I don't think it was a proper project, but it still meets the legal requirements. We don't transfer money. We pay for services with the SEDC.
Thank you. All right, let's go to our panelists. Christy Nix from the Houston Chronicle.
What is your vision for the future of Stafford?
Mr. Willis, we'll start with you.
Wow, everybody's got a vision. My vision is that we continue to embrace, enhance, and promote the diversity of this city. The diversity of this city is what's made us who we are. We've embraced it. We're the most diverse city in Fort Bend County. Secondly, my vision is to elevate SMSD to what everybody dreamed it would be, and that's a school district for these children of Stafford, period. It was not created for the world. It was created for Stafford. My third vision is to continue the zero property tax. That's what attracts businesses. That's what attracts some residents. You want to move the old people out and other people, just impose a property tax and you'll have a ghost town and you'll be trying to find out who to put in all those commercial buildings.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios.
What is my vision, right? Vision for Stafford? I visualize Stafford as a city of the future, a place where it's safe for our children and our families to enjoy their life and build. I envision Stafford as a place of diversity where every single culture and community understands that they're welcome and that it's easy to communicate with the government to express their issues, their concerns. I visualize Stafford as an economically strong city. I see it as a vision for the future where we aren't the stepchild of the surrounding cities, but instead we go up and we grow, but we protect legacy. We take everyone into consideration and we grow according to proportion. I'm very excited about Stafford's future.
Thank you. Mr. Honore.
My vision for Stafford is for Stafford to be known as a community that loves life. Stafford loves human life, and our diversity is a rich culture that we need to really learn how to love better, and there are lots of ways to do that. But I also think that life includes animal life. So we need to have respect and appreciation for the value that pets bring to human life. But we also need to value God's creation and make sure that we take responsibility for the conservative policies that will lead us forward. I believe in zero property tax. I believe Stafford needs a grocery store. I believe that we need to support community policing. I believe that we need to advocate for a heritage and a history museum. So there are lots of things that I have a vision for, but at the end of the day, I want Stafford to be known as a community that loves life.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra.
Thank you very much. The vision for me is to give you a stable financial government without zero property tax. There's a lot of things that we as a society look at, and we have a unique distinction of having a diversified population. I don't look at this that as diversified. We're all together in the same boat. We got to paddle in the same direction. I want to leave this city in a financial state that we don't have to worry about what we're going to do next month, next quarter, next year. I want to make it easy for the next mayor to not suffer what we're going through right now.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to a question from the audience. First question is, after watching the budget meetings for the city of Stafford this past week, it is clear that the city is suffering a financial crisis. It appears that the city can no longer survive on sales tax alone. All candidates running for mayor and council are running, I believe, on a platform of no property tax. What is your plan to turn the city around without a property tax? Would you consider cutting city services, and if so, what services would you cut? Mr. Narvios, we'll start with you.
Last year there was a freeze, a hiring freeze, and our police department is lacking in the amount of police officers. I believe that city services should not be cut. But what I do believe is that Fort Bend was able to advocate for $1,400,000 during the pandemic. And I believe you deserve a leader that is bold and unapologetic to be able to leverage the relationships in the state and the federal level. Someone with the time, someone with the energy, and someone with the dedication to be able to secure those funds, to be able to carry us through and navigate through COVID-19, and at the end of the day, rebuild for a stronger Stafford.
Thank you. Mr. Honore.
That is a very good question, because how do you move a city forward if you're limited in terms of sales tax? Well, obviously you want to grow the opportunity for sales tax. But right now we have a little over $1 million of uncollected sales tax. So the first thing that I would do, I will ask council to repeal the exemption on telecommunications and energy sales tax that these industries do not pay. And we would look at over $1 million just from that alone. We also need to collect on all of the residential rental properties that are in the city. There's a lot, they're not paying their bill. They have residential landlords renting the properties, and we have not even started going after the apartments. So that's another source of revenue if we just go out and collect what's already there. But we have to also be smart about moving our city forward with smart city technology so we can be more efficient with the staff that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra.
Thank you. Mine is going to be short and sweet about it. Yes, we are in a dilemma. What I would like to do is elevate the impact on our citizens so they don't have the danger of the impact of putting a fee or anything on the citizens. Raise your impact on your citizens to where it's now a $20,000 fee to $50,000, and then have an additional fee that will take care of the people that are on fixed incomes over 65 and are disabled. Those are the fees that we need to put on the industrial and commercial, not on the citizens of this city.
Thank you. Mr. Willis.
Well, first of all, we're not going to balance the budget on the back of the people. The people didn't create this crisis, this pandemic we're in. The proposal to remove the sales tax exemption has been tried many times and been rejected by council many times. That is an attraction, that is a draw to bring people to Stafford. You move to Stafford, you pay no city, excuse me, no city property tax, and you have a sales tax exemption. It's my understanding that the $1 million and something Mr. Narvios talked about that the county got, no other city that I'm aware of in Fort Bend County got any funds, but the cities have access to those funds, and we're working to recover COVID payments right now, and next year it'll be in the tune of $300,000 to pay for things involved with COVID. So we are doing our job.
Thank you. Next question from the audience. What future projects do you envision to help advance the economy in the city of Stafford? Mr. Honore, we'll start with you.
Well, we need to continue supporting and expanding the grid project. We also need to look at revitalization of our island area and the revitalization of Murphy Road. Those areas have huge potential to generate sales tax revenue. But the other thing we need to do is create a municipal development corporation. With a municipal development corporation, we can invest in our people through job creation and also through promoting opportunities for our youth to have summer job programs to generate even additional revenues by working with our businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra?
As we speak, we do have a group of developers that are looking at our island. What we want to do is bring revitalization not only to the island, but the 1092 corridor, and with all that being compressed, let's move forward in loosening up some of our regulations so that we can invite more progress and stronger economic development. And we, as the EDC, already provided some of the things that my candidate has spoken about in an indirect way. We are covering the cost of some of the projects here in the city already. Beautification, lawn care for the 1092 and the Highway 90, the parks, and it's going to escalate, so we have to figure out more income.
Thank you. Mr. Willis?
Thank you, sir. It's been mentioned, we already have an approved project with TxDOT, HGAC, the City of Stafford, and Fort Bend County to redevelop the 1092 corridor. It's going to drastically change that whole area. We've already started with some rezoning of a major development going in at Mula and 1092. As Councilman Guerra said, the 98 corridor is starting to redevelop. There has been more redevelopment on that corridor in the past 3 years than there has been in the past 25 years. Then the pandemic hit and everybody shut everything down. So we are moving forward. We have a plan. We know what we're doing. We don't need to try to create any more corporations and ideas that don't come to fruition. Like one time we were going to create a Stafford Chamber of Commerce, and that disappeared, and the funds disappeared, and everything associated with it disappeared. We know what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Narvios.
I think it's very important for us to assist the community and our residents through COVID-19 before we consider any economic development. By bringing new jobs in and assisting people to navigate through COVID-19, by allowing them the opportunity to work in order to continue to thrive and support their families, then we can consider them actually spending their money. Because without money in your household, then you don't have an opportunity. So I think it's very important to put the residents first. Additionally, by taking a look at the revitalization of the economics structure of Stafford, this should have been done years ago. I've spoken to several businesses who are not even allowed to revitalize and renovate their businesses. Somebody, can I have my time back?
You still have some time. 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. So the revitalization of the economic structure of Stafford needs to be prioritized, and I believe that priority stands and starts with the residents.
Thank you. Go to our panelists. Shashadri, you have a question?
Yeah. In view of the budget constraints that you have talked about, will you look at the level of bureaucracy? Do you think it is at the appropriate level or bloated? And why do you think you deserve $120,000 as a mayor's salary?
Mr. Guerra, let's start with you.
First of all, going to what Mr. Kumar just asked, the revitalization and the zoning, as we loosening up some of the strings to bring in more businesses by variance and a conducive business that's going to bring in retail. This city thrives on retail. So with that said, we do have a plan for these corridors, and these corridors are supplemental income that we are going to look at for the future. With that future, it's starting to look very bright by the quality of developments that are coming in. It all is an evolution that we didn't see as when I started almost 20 years ago. By saying that, I think we have a bright future, and the income of this city will be perpetuated by these businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Willis?
Thank you. Appreciate that question very much, Mr. Kumar. Let me start with the mayor's salary. I voted against that proposition when it was printed on the ballot. Mayor Scarcella spent his own money sending brochures to people saying, don't do this. The people voted it in anyway. Then we had to follow the formula, and it ranged from here to there. I found a city, and I convinced council and gave the facts to get it down to the lowest number we could get it down to, even though I disagree with that number. The people said do it. The vote was 6-1. One member of council wanted $160,000 instead of $120,000. So If I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to be elected to the city council, I can guarantee you, you will not pay me $120,000.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios?
One of the things that is beneficial with Stafford voting for me is I'm a fresh perspective with no pre-existing political or business agendas that can distract the mayor from doing his job. Those of y'all at home, you work for a living. You expect to get paid for doing that work. I mean, although it may be noble to get paid $10,000 a year, I'm a firm believer that if I'm putting in my hard-earned work, my sweat equity, my knowledge, my education, my full-time effort and dedication to you, in order to keep a politician legitimate, you're going to have to pay them well so they're happy. And that's why I believe that the salary is fair, because we should be compensated for our efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Honore?
I think that the city of Stafford is much like a business entity, and you would not ask your police chief to work for free. You would not ask your fire chief to work for free. You wouldn't ask your secretary or even the lawn care custodians to work for free. The mayor is the CEO. As a CEO, the mayor has a huge responsibility. Now, the CEO has the opportunity also to give back to the city if they want to. But we need to set the city up for success. One of the issues that we've had in the past was unfair pay, inequities. So it's very important that we set up a model of success for the city, and that includes making sure that there's fair and equal pay from the CEO down to the maintenance worker.
Thank you. Stefan, you have a question?
Yes. Earlier tonight, obviously the Board of Trustees candidates addressed everybody, and I wanted to ask a question about the school district. Specifically, what is there any sort of model or precedent for, given the fact that in Texas it's the only one that is a municipal school district, is there any sort of like comparison in terms of what you're all doing maybe out of state or in another city that you can look to, and is there any sort of precedent for reorganizing it as a budgetary or cost savings measure if that were to give them less of a constraint?
Mr. Willis?
That's to me.
It's your question.
What's the question?
You can repeat the question.
What's the question? Cut it in half.
Okay. So as far as the school district is concerned, would you consider reorganizing it and from a municipal school district into another entity, if that's
Okay. No, I got it.
Yeah.
No, no, and no.
Why?
That's 3 words. Because it's a standalone governmental entity. Their money is their money. The only thing the city council has legal authority over is to approve their budget, approve their tax rate. Their bonds to build all these beautiful buildings are city bonds for school purposes. When the district was created, there was 3 in the state of Texas. We're the only one left. Stafford, I don't think, has any interest in going around the nation looking at other municipal school districts. Stafford is unique. It is thought outside the box. And people that try to come in here and divide and bring politics and other things into it are missing the boat. Stafford is unique, and they concentrate on Stafford and don't care what's going on in Chicago, Boston, or Houston. The people of Stafford care about Stafford, and that's the school district's money, even though the school district is a component entity of the city.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios?
I believe that our children's education is extremely imperative for the success of the future. I have no experience working with the school district. However, I've heard great things about why the municipal school district is important to maintain its individuality. I believe that with the sustenance of the resources that they've been able to garner, we have the tools necessary to give to the students in order for them to be successful in their future. However, we are lacking in that success based on our ratings. So I would do a comprehensive study and take a deep look on how to hold our students accountable. Additionally, our administration and our staff, the teachers as well, make sure that they're properly accommodated and that we're inspiring the environment of the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Honoré.
I have almost a 360-degree different opinion than some of the people here. I believe that when you benchmark yourself against successes in other places, even in other countries, not just here in the United States, but when you benchmark against success, that you have an opportunity with that type of research to improve and enhance what you can offer in your local community. So I believe that we should look at success in other places. We have a unique opportunity being the only municipal school district in the state. We don't leverage and take advantage of that. And that's one of the things that we can do by forming the Municipal Development Corporation I spoke about. We can enhance early childhood education. We can enhance workforce development. We can create scholarship opportunities and go out and help raise money to take care of some of those things that our school's budget won't be able to do through a Municipal Development Corporation. So yes, we are not taking advantage of all the opportunities to benchmark and to advance our uniqueness as a municipal school district. But I strongly support our Board of Trustees.
Mr. Guerra.
First of all, I have been a strong component of promoting our municipal school district. I had 2 children that went from pre-K through graduation. I have a special needs son that was taken care of very adequately, and my daughter had a wonderful education with a great GPA, and we had the touch of a private institute. With that said, I stand firm in continuing to promote and help our district to carry it to the next level. They've already done that. A magnet school district. I think that that is going to bring not only the students that we need that are in our city, but is going to lay a groundwork for a different level of education in our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Nix, you have a question?
In your opinion, what is the role of mayor and what skills do you bring that make you uniquely qualified to serve?
Mr. Narvios, start with you.
Can you repeat it, please?
In your opinion, what is the role of mayor and what skills do you bring that make you uniquely qualified to serve?
I believe the role of a mayor is the CEO, the face, the voice, the spokesperson of the people. I believe they have a job to do in order to create a cohesive and synergistic relationship with all of the moving parts of the city. I believe that I am equipped with the proper qualifications and characteristics of a mayor because I understand the people. For 15 years, I've advocated for very serious issues in our community, such as domestic violence, child abuse, human trafficking. And for 11 years, I advocated for different cultural communities. There's not a single community I haven't touched. My education in legal education, I'm not afraid of the law. I'm not afraid of legislation. I'm not afraid of advocacy. So I plan on marrying, when I graduate from law school in December, I'm going to marry my advocacy skills with being a spokesperson and the voice of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Honoré.
I believe the role of the mayor is to listen. Listen to your constituents, listen to the community, understand what the needs are, and then manage and address those needs. That's the primary role of the mayor. In addition, you have to be able to manage the finances to make sure that you can raise the capital that you need to take care of the needs of the citizens. And that's one of the strong points that I bring to this position as mayor. I have a background unique from anybody on this stage that gives me an advantage when it comes to raising capital to take care of the needs of our community. So listening, taking care of the needs, motivating, unifying, and also managing the staff at City Hall.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra?
Yes, sir. As I opened up this forum, I am the acting mayor. I have done what I never expected to do in such a short amount of time. I had some big shoes to fill. I wavered, but I never fell. And I moved as expediently as possible to make sure that our employees were going to be taken care of with the financial dilemma that we're in. I assured them that we would have a balanced budget and nobody would get laid off. I moved forward and even recommended taking a hit on my $600 salary per month that I was doing a $10,000 job. And I advocated to do that. That's the love I have for this community. The situation lends itself that at the end of the day, I'm not practicing anymore. I'm doing the job.
Thank you. Mr. Willis?
Thank you, sir. It's been stated the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city. He's the face of city government and of the community. But he is only a custodian of the people's government, the people's money. And sometimes elected officials forget that and they think it's theirs. It's the people. I started working for the city of Houston 3 weeks after I graduated from Texas A&M. So I have worked for government from the ground up. I served 3 years on the water board. I understand the utilities and the water and budget. I've served 36 years on city. I understand that. I ran a HOA for 39 years, left them with $1 million in the bank. An HOA had 7,000 to 8,000, so I ran a small city. I have been the budget chairman for the Fort Bend County Fair for 25 years. I've been on the board of trustees for the University of the West in California for 11 years. So I understand government, I understand budget, and I'm stopped.
Thank you. All right. Another question from the audience. Do you have a plan to adequately address the ongoing lack of proper drainage in our city neighborhoods, in particular those that still have street ditches like in Vaquero Manor on Linda Street? Start with Mr. Honore.
Absolutely, I have a plan. I'm not sure that I'm the right one. I think I led the last one, but I can lead this one because I'm very well versed in it.
I didn't see that.
Is
that
okay?
right? I believe Mr. Narvios had first crack at the last question.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Honore, you're up.
Absolutely. Phase one of our drainage project in Vaquero Manor and the Missouri City Estates was completed, but phase two hasn't even started. Now, I advocated for there to be one phase and to do the whole project because it would be less expensive to do the whole project. Those areas need to have curb and gutter. No doubt about it. Curb and gutter is the only thing that's going to complete those areas and make sure that we have proper drainage. We need to move forward with that, and we need to make sure that we raise the capital to bring curb and gutter to Linda Street, Missouri City Estates, and the rest of Vaquero Manor and other areas in our city that are still living with ditches instead of curb and gutter.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra?
As I understand, we raised bond money to take care of the drainage in these areas, and some of it was moved to do another project, and the project was not completed. We do have standing projects that need to be completed, Missouri City Estates, Vaquero Manor, and we also have an area in Sugar Creek. These areas in Sugar Creek was an interlocal agreement with Sugarland, and they couldn't afford to do what they needed to do. So we backed off a little bit. But at the same time, going to curb and gutter is not a solution. It's an aesthetic situation. You can do a underground ditch system that is not seen from the surface and widen your streets and move the same amount of water at a minimum amount of money.
Thank you. Mr. Willis.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you an answer, and it may not be the answer you like, but I believe in the truth and transparency. You can solve any problem or any condition that people think the city have by money and 4 people on council raising their hand. The attorney has said that thousands of times, as long as it's legal. It takes 4 people and money to solve a problem. Yes, there's areas that we need to make improvements on. Yes, it costs money. And probably the only way it will ever be done is a bond proposal that's voted on by the entire citizens of Stafford. And as Fort Bend County has done in the past, they're doing a bond issue now. Every city is getting something, so they think they'll vote for it. But you have to have something for everybody, because sometimes people don't want to pay to do somebody else's condition.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios.
I believe that the drainage is a severe issue that our city faces. However, for the last 10 years, it hasn't been tackled. We are now in a predicament where our budget is strapped and businesses are stifled. My question is, why hasn't it been brought to light? Why hasn't it been taken care of? You see, COVID-19 didn't create these problems. COVID-19 exposed these problems. And through that exposure, we have an opportunity to press the reset button and really take a good look at where we're going as a city, strengthen our economy, and then focus our funds, whether it's bond or whether it's city, on the proper things that are the immediate needs of our residents.
Thank you. All right, one more question from the audience. What is your position on getting our own baseball fields so we can stop using the baseball complex run by Missouri City? Start with Mr. Guerra.
Well, I love the game of baseball. The problem is funding. As we are speaking about a baseball field, we're trying to live within the means that we have, which are very tight right now. I'm not going to make promises to you on this stage. We can still continue to use this Stamo field, and someday when we get out of this financial dilemma, we can research that. I think we can join hands with the school to maybe use their facilities for that particular reason. With that being said, we're looking at a financial dilemma that we have to live within our means. I mean, we've frozen wages, all capital improvements, all capital purchases. How are we going to build a field? We can't.
Mr. Willis?
We got to rent.
Thank you so much. We have a baseball field. We have a softball field that the taxpayers of Stafford own. It's right over here behind us. An arrangement has to be worked out with the school district to use that field, period. The citizens, the children of Stafford, can still sign up and go to Stamo. What Stafford canceled was the contract that was disproportionate, that we were paying the share to operate that facility, and there was a limited number of Stafford students using it. So we need to work with our colleagues on the school district, but there's limitations there because it's a high school football, softball, and baseball field, so it'd have to be carefully looked at how it worked. But there is a possibility, I believe, because the citizens of Stafford own that field.
Thank you. Mr. Narvios?
I believe that in order to build the proper baseball field, we have to take a look at our budget, or else we're going to strike out. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we can always collaborate with local businesses. There's a lot of individuals who have a very considerate and generous heart. They dedicated their lives to philanthropic nature. And by collaborating with our local businesses and individuals who have a heart for baseball, who have a heart for the children and a place for them to enjoy their recreation, we can garner the funds, strengthen relationships with businesses, and allow them the opportunity to sponsor something for our children to enjoy.
Thank you. Mr. Honore?
I think that we have to take a two-pronged approach at this. Number one, we need to promote more municipal partnerships with our neighbors. And I believe that STAMO is one of those that we can fix. I think sitting down with STAMO and working those issues out is important, and some of those issues will have to do with financial. But on the other side, I believe there's an opportunity because of the importance of youth sports to create a club sport of baseball that can use our municipal or the school district's facilities. We do not have enough kids to create a league, so for that competitive league play, I think we need to work out the situation with Missouri City to continue that, but we can still promote a club sport for our youth using our own facilities right here in Stafford.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask the candidates to give us their closing statements. You're going to have 2 minutes to give your closing statements per the rules in the order of your name on the ballot. Please address why we should vote for you for the mayor of Stafford. And we will start with Mr. Honore.
Thank you very much. I first want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the panelists for being here and facilitating this opportunity for our citizens to get to know a little bit more about those of us that are aspiring to lead this city. The reason why you should vote for me is because there's too much at stake in this election. Last night, City Council passed a budget by transferring almost $8 million from restricted accounts designated for capital projects and economic development to cover a budget deficit. They had good intentions, but are nearsighted on the impact of cannibalizing capital projects and economic development. I am the only candidate for mayor that has the experience and the vision to maintain the legacy of zero property taxes. I will work with City Council to recover our fragile budget and make our fund balances strong again. Once we restore our financial position, we will be able to invest in the things that make Stafford attractive as a small suburban town in one of the nation's greatest and most diverse counties. My vision for Stafford is to be known as a community that loves people. I believe that Stafford's, and as your next mayor for Stafford, that we will not only maintain zero property tax, but we will support community policing. We will work with the SEDC to attract a major grocery store to Stafford. We will upgrade open ditch neighborhoods to curb and gutter. We will revitalize FM 1092 and the Island District. We will develop youth enrichment and summer job programs along with senior programs. And we will also, some might think that this is minimum, but we will make uniform trash receptacles the standard in our city, and we'll move forward with a recycling program. As your next mayor, we will move forward with Stafford together.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Wen Guerra.
Again, I propose to bring a business-minded government that will address all our financial needs through economic growth and face the dilemma that we have in the next 5 years. We have approximately 13.6 on street improvements. We have about 5.7 on drainage, and we have about 1.4 on aging equipment. That's what I'm looking at. And I'm trying to make the impact to improve these items with no impact to the residents of our city. possibly raising the homestead exemption, tripling it or doubling it, and then have a special exemption for those over 65 or disabled. So if we implement a user fee, the citizens will not be impacted by that fee. But all those landlords that are in your neighborhood, the industrial and commercial and the retail areas, we cannot come up with this funding overnight. And that goes back to what I was saying. Leave this city in a financial state that the next mayor will not have these woes that I faced as the acting mayor when it was all landed on my lap. And the reaction was, wow. Then I started working. And a reaction to the needs of the people, because I will answer those calls. With that being said, more amenities, a better quality of life. That is what I want to achieve as your next mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Cecil Willis.
Thank you, sir. Again, I want to thank the participants here, and especially the viewing audience of the Stafford residents. It's not often that somebody asks you to stand in front of a television camera and people and toot your horn. So here I go. You have heard a lot of rhetoric on this stage tonight. Some of it is attainable, some of it is not attainable. You are simply being told what they thought you wanted to hear. You cannot run a city on manipulated social media sites. Cities are run by people who have to make tough decisions. They have to know when to say no. I know when to say no. I have said no. I have run some very successful organizations through the year. 36 years of experience with Stafford government is more than the combined years of the people standing on this stage. I am running on my record, and the people have vetted my record. They know who I am. They know what I believe. They know what I stand for. They know what I will fight for them. I am proud of that record. You know, again, who I am. I will not change who I am moving to another chair at the council chamber. The people that know me know that's who I am. I want to stress one thing again. Every dollar in the bank account and under the name of the city of Stafford is Stafford money. And 4 votes on council can do what council decides to do with that money. So we're going to get through this. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not one of those trains coming down the track that are hid by those beautiful trees that have discontinued the hubcap and wheels industry on North Main and South Main.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Narvios.
According to Fort Bend Independent, on an article that was published in April, Mayor Scarcella wrote to Governor Abbott, "We desperately need your assistance to help us continue to serve our community and the Texas economy." Ladies and gentlemen, in 2008, we had 1 year worth of spending power within our economy. Now we're living month to month. COVID-19 didn't bring that up. We've been dealing with this issue slowly and progressively. And throughout the course of several administrations, we're only able to see the result now that a pandemic has hit us. What I'm proposing, ladies and gentlemen, is the energy to carry us through this pandemic, navigate through COVID-19. It's very important for us to develop trust with the government. Whenever we speak about the people and the constituents we represent, I ask you, is it more than the 10% that actually go out and vote? What about those communities who don't vote? We still represent you. So I urge everybody out there to be the difference that you want to see in your life. And today, that's what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you to the Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce, the Fort Bend Independent, the Fort Bend Star, and the Houston Chronicle. For everybody that's participated here next to me, thank you for your desire to serve our community. And I just want to let you know, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I want to inspire people. And that's the reason I'm here today, because I'm inspired to make a difference. I felt a call from God, and I could not deny that. I simply wanted to be obedient and serve as a vessel. So if God's will be so, then I'd love to be your mayor. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you to all the mayoral candidates for the city of Stafford for being with us this evening. This concludes, and thank you to our panelists, and thank you to all the audience questions. This concludes our Stafford Candidates Forum for Stafford MSD School Board, Stafford City Council, and Mayor for the City of Stafford. Let me remind you of some important dates. Early voting is from October 13th through the 30th. Election Day is on November 3rd, 2020. For more information on voting, you can visit www.fortbendchambervotes.com. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.